Some truths don't arrive with noise. They come quietly, like a memory you tried to bury, or a feeling you keep pretending doesn't exist. And maybe that's why you clicked on this video today. Not because you were curious, but because a part of you is tired of carrying something nobody else can see. Love changes people. Real love doesn't just touch your heart. It exposes your wounds, your fears, your loneliness. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask yourself one terrifying question: am I truly loved, or just tolerated? And tonight, I need you to stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to say may hurt. It may reopen old scars, but it might also be the truth your soul has been begging to hear for years. So if you skip this video, maybe nothing changes. Maybe you go back to distracting yourself, smiling for people, pretending you're okay. But deep down, you'll still feel that emptiness following you everywhere you go. My love, this message is not for everyone. It's for the people who gave their heart completely and still ended up feeling alone. There's something strange about the human heart. It keeps fighting for people who stopped fighting for it a long time ago. And maybe that's where your pain began. Not in the moment they left, not in the moment they lied, but in the moment you realized you were the only one trying to hold everything together while they slowly stopped caring. You know, people talk about heartbreak like it's loud, like it comes crashing through the door with screaming and tears and dramatic goodbyes. But real heartbreak is quieter than that. Real heartbreak happens when someone you love slowly becomes emotionally unavailable while standing right beside you. It's when their voice changes, their energy changes, their eyes stop looking for you the way they used to. And every day after that, you start waking up with this strange heaviness in your chest that you can't explain to anyone because technically, they're still there. That kind of pain confuses people, because you keep telling yourself, maybe I'm overthinking, maybe they're just tired, maybe things will go back to normal. But deep down, your soul already knows when love is fading. Human beings are not stupid when it comes to energy. We feel distance long before words confirm it, and that's why so many people destroy themselves trying to save relationships that already died emotionally months ago. They start shrinking themselves just to avoid being abandoned. They become quieter, softer, more forgiving, more patient. They apologize for things that were never their fault. They overthink every text message, every delay, every dry response, every cold look. They begin carrying the entire emotional weight of the relationship while pretending they're okay. And the saddest part is, the more love they give, the more invisible they become. I've noticed something about people who love deeply. They don't know when to stop sacrificing themselves. They think loyalty, SY, means enduring disrespect. They think patience means tolerating emotional neglect. They think if they just love harder, stay calmer, become more understanding, somehow the other person will wake up and realize their value. But life doesn't work that way. You cannot convince someone to appreciate you by bleeding harder for them. And I think a lot of people need to hear that because they've spent years trying to earn love they should never have had to earn in the first place. See, healthy love doesn't make you question your worth every night. Healthy love doesn't leave you emotionally starving while giving someone else every piece of your soul. Healthy love doesn't make you afraid to express your feelings because you're scared they'll pull away even more. That isn't love. That's emotional survival. And some of you watching this right now have been surviving for so long that you forgot what peace even feels like. You forgot what it feels like to be chosen naturally instead of begging SI. Bluntly through your actions. You forgot what it feels like to speak without fear, to exist without anxiety, to wake up without checking your phone, hoping someone finally gives you the attention you've been starving for. That kind of loneliness changes people. It turns warm hearts cold. It turns confident people insecure. It turns loving souls into exhausted human beings who no longer recognize themselves in the mirror. And what hurts the most is that nobody sees your battle because you became an expert at hiding it. You laugh when you're breaking. You smile while your mind is falling apart. You tell everyone you're fine because explaining the truth would take too much energy you no longer have. People only notice physical wounds. They don't notice the emotional ones. They don't notice how tired your eyes have become from carrying disappointment every single day. They don't notice how many nights you spent replaying conversations in your head wondering what you did wrong. But let me tell, I want something important. Sometimes the problem was never you. Sometimes you were simply pouring genuine love into emotionally unavailable people. And emotionally unavailable people will always make healthy hearts feel difficult to love because they cannot meet you where you are emotionally. That realization changes everything, because once you understand that, you stop blaming yourself for someone else's inability to love correctly. And maybe this is the truth nobody told you growing up. Not everyone who says, "I love you" actually knows how to love. Some people only know how to receive love. Some only know how to take comfort, attention, loyalty, affection, validation. But when it's time to reciprocate with emotional maturity, consistency, reassurance, honesty, they disappear. And people who love deeply usually stay too long hoping things will change, because hope is dangerous like that. Hope convinces you to ignore reality. Hope tells you to wait a little longer. Hope whispers that maybe tomorrow they'll become who you needed today. But sometimes tomorrow never comes. Sometimes people show you exactly who they are repeatedly, and your pain continues because you keep falling in love with their potential instead of accepting their reality. That destroys people emotionally. You start mourning a version of someone that never truly existed outside your imagination. You cling to old memories because the present hurts too much. You replay the good moments trying to justify all the bad ones. And slowly, without realizing it, you become emotionally addicted to temporary affection. A little attention suddenly feels like love. A small apology feels like healing. Basic kindness feels extraordinary because you've been emotionally deprived for so long. And that's when people lose themselves completely. Not all at once. Slowly. Piece by piece. You stop doing the things you once loved. You stop laughing naturally. Your confidence disappears quietly. You become emotionally dependent. Bent on small moments of validation because your inner world is starving. And the terrifying part is, most people around you never notice. They just see you functioning. They don't see the emotional war happening inside your mind every day. They don't see how exhausted you are from pretending to be okay. They don't see how badly you want someone to simply hold your soul gently instead of constantly testing its limits. You know what I think many people are truly searching for? Not perfection, not money, not status. They're searching for emotional safety. Someone who makes their nervous system feel calm instead of confused. Someone whose presence feels honest, predictable, gentle. Someone who doesn't disappear emotionally every time things become difficult, because love should not feel like anxiety every day. And if you constantly feel emotionally unsafe around someone, your body eventually begins treating love like danger. That's why some people become distant after heartbreak. Not because, they stopped caring, but because caring too much nearly destroyed them. People don't understand how trauma changes affection. After enough disappointment, the heart becomes cautious. The soul becomes guarded. You stop opening up easily because you remember what happened the last time you gave someone unrestricted access to your emotions. And maybe you're there right now. Maybe you still love deeply, but you no longer trust easily. Maybe part of you wants connection while another part prepares for abandonment every time someone gets close. That internal conflict is exhausting. Wanting love while fearing it at the same time creates emotional chaos inside a person. You crave intimacy, but panic when vulnerability appears. You want reassurance, but struggle to believe it when it's given. And none of that makes you weak, it makes you human. Especially in a world where people have normalized emotional inconsistency, ghosting, manipulation, mixed signals, half-love, temporary attachment disguised as forever. People say I'm here for you and disappear when things become inconvenient. People say I love you while entertaining other options behind closed doors. People promise forever with mouths that were never capable of commitment. And good-hearted people suffer the most because they believe words. They trust intentions. They see the good in others even when reality keeps warning them not to. But eventually life teaches everyone the same painful lesson. Words mean nothing without consistency. Anyone can say beautiful things when emotions are high. Anyone can sound loving for a moment. But true character reveals itself through patterns, through effort, through presence during difficult seasons. Real love remains gentle even during conflict. Real love communicates. Real love protects your heart instead of constantly putting it in survival mode. And if someone repeatedly makes you feel unwanted, confused, insecure, emotionally drained, you need to stop romanticizing your suffering and start listening to what your pain has been trying to teach you. Pain is not always punishment. Sometimes pain is revelation. Sometimes your heartbreak is exposing the truth your heart kept trying to ignore. Because deep down, you already know when someone stops valuing you. Your intuition notices everything before your mind accepts it. The late replies, the emotional distance, the lack of effort, the fading curiosity about your feelings, the way conversations become empty, the way affection begins feeling forced instead of natural. Souls recognize disconnection long before people admit it out loud. And maybe the hardest part of growing emotionally is accepting that not everyone you love is meant to stay in your life forever. Some people arrive to teach lessons, not loyalty. Some arrive to awaken wounds you didn't know existed so you can finally heal them instead of hiding from them. Because sometimes losing someone reveals how much of yourself you abandoned trying to keep. And that's the tragedy nobody talks about enough. People lose themselves quietly, not in one dramatic moment, but in tiny sacrifices repeated every single day until they no longer recognize the person staring back at them in the mirror. You stop speaking honestly because you don't want to create tension. You stop expressing needs because you're afraid of being called too much. You stop expecting effort because disappointment became familiar. And eventually you become emotionally numb just to survive the relationship that was supposed to make you feel alive. That's what happens when someone keeps abandoning themselves for love. At first it feels noble. It feels selfless. You convince yourself that loving someone means putting their happiness before your own. So you tolerate things that slowly destroy your peace. You forgive disrespect too quickly. You excuse emotional neglect. You carry conversations, fix problems, absorb pain, and keep showing up with loyalty even when our soul is exhausted. But there comes a point where sacrifice stops being love and starts becoming self-destruction. And some of you have crossed that line a long time ago. You can feel it in your energy. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You overthink simple interactions. You feel anxious when your phone stays silent too long. You replay old conversations searching for reassurance that never truly came. That isn't emotional peace. That's emotional dependency disguised as love. Real love should not make you feel like you're constantly auditioning for a role in someone's life. It should not leave you wondering whether you matter. The right connection brings clarity, not confusion. Safety, not fear. Calmness, not emotional chaos. But wounded people often mistake chaos for passion because calm love feels unfamiliar to a nervous system trained by inconsistency. That's why some people keep returning to relationships that hurt them. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because part of, emotionally recognizable. Their heart learned to associate uncertainty with attachment. So when someone finally arrives with honesty, consistency, and peace, it almost feels suspicious. Healing changes that. Healing teaches you that you do not need to earn basic respect. You do not need to beg for communication. You do not need to shrink yourself to be loved properly. And maybe this is difficult for some people to hear, but love alone is not enough to sustain a healthy relationship. You can deeply love someone and still be destroying each other emotionally. Because connection without emotional maturity becomes chaos. Feelings without accountability become damage. Attraction without honesty becomes manipulation, and too many people stay trapped in painful situations because they believe love is supposed to hurt constantly. Yes, love requires effort. Yes, relationships face challenges. But there's a difference between healthy struggle and emotional suffering that slowly erodes your spirit. You should not lose your identity trying to keep someone close. You should not abandon your mental peace just to avoid loneliness. Loneliness itself is painful, but nothing compares to feeling alone beside someone who promised to love you. That kind of emptiness changes people forever. It teaches them to stop expecting too much from others. It teaches them how to cry silently, how to smile during heartbreak, how to survive disappointment without talking about it. And the world praises people for being strong without realizing their strength was built from emotional neglect. Some of the strongest people you know became strong because nobody ever handled their heart gently. Nobody stayed long enough. Nobody listened deeply enough. Nobody loved them consistently enough, so they learned how to survive alone even when all they ever wanted was genuine connection. And maybe you've become that person too. The one who says I'm used to it when pain appears. The sets unbothered while carrying emotional exhaustion privately. The one who gives endless understanding to others but rarely receives the same care in return. People like that often become emotionally drained because they pour from a cup nobody helps refill. And eventually, the soul reaches a breaking point, not always loudly. Sometimes breaking looks calm. Sometimes it looks like emotional detachment, silence, distance. A person suddenly becoming unavailable after years of overgiving. Because after enough disappointment, the heart stops chasing what continuously wounds it. That's not bitterness. That's survival instinct. You begin realizing that protecting your peace is more important than maintaining one-sided relationships. You begin understanding that love should add warmth to your life, not constant confusion. And for the first time, you stop asking, how do I make them stay? And start asking, why am I begging someone to love me correctly? That question changes everything. Because once you truly understand your worth, your tolerance for emotional inconsistency becomes smaller. You stop romanticizing bare minimum effort. You stop confusing attention with genuine care. You stop accepting apologies unsupported by changed behavior. And suddenly, you become harder to manipulate because your loneliness no longer controls your decisions. That's powerful. When a person finally learns how to be alone without feeling empty, they stop settling for relationships that drain their spirit. They stop fearing abandonment so much that they abandon themselves first. Because the truth is, Many people are not afraid of losing others. They're afraid of facing themselves without distraction. Silence forces reflection, and reflection reveals painful truths. It reveals how much energy was wasted chasing emotionally unavailable people, how many years disappeared trying to fix connections that were never healthy, how many tears were cried over individuals who never fully appreciated the depth of the love they were receiving. But awareness is where freedom begins. The moment you stop lying to yourself about who someone truly is, healing starts. The moment you accept that you cannot force honesty, loyalty,